Bikers attack a child without knowing his dog is a retired canine German Shepherd. A group of bikers thought they picked the perfect target, a young, defenseless boy walking home alone. But what they didn't know was that the boy wasn't alone, and his quiet companion had once served on the front lines as a fearless canine. What happened next left the entire neighborhood speechless. Get ready for a true story of loyalty, instinct, and the bond between a king and his heroic dog that will leave you in tears. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. It helps us bring you more powerful and inspiring stories like this one. The sun had just begun to set over the small neighborhood of Oak Ridge. It was one of those peaceful spring evenings where everything felt calm. Too calm. Birds chirped softly from the trees. The air was crisp with the scent of blooming flowers, and the streets were nearly empty. At the edge of this quiet town, a young boy named Liam, just 10 years old, was walking home from his after-school robotics club. His backpack bounced with each step, and in his left hand, he carried a sketchbook filled with drawings of machines and dreams he hoped to one day build. At his side trotted Max, a large, aging German Shepherd with a thick coat of black and tan fur and eyes that had seen more than any child could imagine. He walked with grace, every step measured and alert. Max wasn't just any dog. He was a retired canine from the city's police department. For years, he'd served in SWAT operations, drug raids, and search and rescue missions. But now, he was simply Liam's dog. At least, that's what most people thought. Liam's father had been Max's handler, a respected officer known for his discipline and bravery until a fatal accident on duty took him away 2 years ago. After the funeral, the department offered to retire Max. Everyone agreed. Max should stay with the boy who had already lost too much. Since then, they'd become inseparable. They passed the neighborhood basketball court, waved at Mrs. Jenkins, watering her tulips, and walked slowly up the slope toward their home. Everything seemed ordinary, until the rumble came. It started faint, like distant thunder. Liam stopped walking, narrowing his eyes. Max's ears perked up. The rumble grew louder. Then, over the hill came 3 motorbikes, speeding recklessly down the narrow street. The noise shattered the calm like glass. The bikers weren't from Oak Ridge. You could tell instantly. Their black helmets, torn denim jackets, and aggressive speed didn't match the suburban quiet. They revved their engines louder as they approached, laughing, their exhausts crackling through the air. Liam instinctively stepped to the sidewalk, pulling Max with him. But something about the boy, maybe how small he looked, or maybe just the sight of his scared expression, caught the eye of the lead biker. He slowed down. The others followed. Liam's heart began to race. Max, now on high alert, stood in front of him. The dog's body was tense, his eyes locked on the approaching men. The lead biker pulled off his helmet, revealing a smirk that made Liam's stomach twist. "Hey kid," the man said, his voice rough. "Nice dog you got there. You live around here?" Liam didn't answer. He just took a step back. The second biker laughed. "You scared or something? We're just talking." Max let out a low growl, deep and menacing. The sound made the hairs on Liam's arms stand up. "Easy, mutt," the third biker said, pulling something from his jacket. Was it a stick? A bat? Max stepped forward, placing himself fully between Liam and the men. His tail was stiff, his body angled, eyes tracking every movement. The lead biker grinned. "Look at this tough guy. You trained him to growl, huh?" "No," Liam said, his voice shaking. "He trained with the police." They laughed again, but Max didn't move. He was waiting for a command, for a signal, for danger. And it was coming. The second biker dismounted his bike, slapping his palm with a chain he carried. "Let's see how brave your dog is when we take that sketchbook and knock you around a bit." Liam froze. Max didn't. The dog's bark exploded into the air, sharp, violent, and commanding. It wasn't the bark of a pet. It was the bark of a warrior. A warning. A promise. The bikers paused. "What the hell?" the lead one muttered. Max's stance shifted. He began to circle slowly in front of Liam, lips curled, showing the full length of his sharp teeth. Liam didn't recognize this version of Max. This wasn't the dog who played tug-of-war or lay curled by his bed. This was something else. A protector. A soldier. The second biker took a step forward. That was a mistake. Max launched. He didn't go for the leg. He went for the wrist, the one holding the chain. In seconds, the man was screaming, collapsing to the ground as Max clamped down and twisted. The other two barely had time to react. Liam stood frozen, watching as the dog he thought he knew revealed a side he had only heard about from his father's stories. One biker jumped off his motorcycle and pulled a knife from his belt. Max turned his head, baring his bloodied teeth again, ready to face the next threat. And then, sirens. From the corner of the street, red and blue lights flashed, and the sound of 2 squad cars flying into the scene brought everything to a sudden stop. The bikers froze. Max stayed low, ready to pounce again. Liam's hands were shaking. His eyes were wide. But inside him, something had changed. He didn't just see Max as his pet anymore. He saw a hero. And the world was about to know it too. The following morning, Oak Ridge didn't feel like Oak Ridge anymore. Police cars still lined the busy curb outside Liam's house. Reporters had swarmed the quiet street like bees, holding microphones and shouting questions that no 10-year-old should ever have to answer. Liam sat on the front porch in silence, his knees pulled to his chest. Max sat beside him, head high, eyes alert, still guarding, still watching. His fur was matted near his jaw, where dried blood hadn't yet been washed away. But he didn't seem to care. His focus never shifted from Liam. Inside, Liam's Aunt Sarah was talking to a detective in hushed tones. She had taken custody of Liam after his father's death. She loved him, but she'd never fully understood Max, never trusted the way he watched everything with military precision. Now, the world was beginning to understand him. One of the officers approached the porch, kneeling down to Liam's level. It was Officer Ramirez, a man who had served with Liam's father years ago. "Hey, buddy," Ramirez said gently. "How you holding up?" Liam shrugged. "Okay, I guess." "You were really brave last night," he said. "But you know Max. Max was something else." Liam looked at his dog. "I didn't even tell him what to do. He just knew." Ramirez smiled. "He always did. That's how your dad trained him. Max doesn't need orders to protect the ones he loves." Liam felt something catch in his throat. He swallowed it. "Are the bad guys going to jail?" he asked. "For a long time," Ramirez said, nodding. "And you don't need to worry. We've got their records. Assault, theft, intimidation. They picked the wrong kid." Liam gave a tiny smile, but it faded quickly. "What happens to Max now?" he asked quietly. "They want to take him away, don't they?" Ramirez's face shifted. Not surprised, not angry, just sad. "Some people in the department. They're asking questions, saying Max might be dangerous because of how he reacted." "He was protecting me," Liam cried. "They were going to hurt me." "I know. Everyone who was there knows," Ramirez said. "But not everyone sees it the same way. There's talk of mandatory evaluations, maybe a hold." "A hold?" Liam's voice cracked. "You mean like a cage?" Max let out a soft whine, sensing Liam's distress. Ramirez sighed. "Look, I'm going to do everything I can to fight this. Your dad would want me to, but if it comes to it, we'll need to show them who Max really is, not just what he did. Liam stood and walked down the steps, Max following closely. He ran his fingers through Max's fur and whispered, "They're not taking you. I don't care what they say." Across the street, reporters were still filming. That night, the story aired on local news. The headline read, "Retired police dog saves boy from biker gang attack." Footage showed Max lunging at the attackers, followed by shots of him sitting beside Liam like a statue. The anchor described Max as a real-life hero, and social media lit up. People from across the state began commenting, sharing, tweeting, "This dog should get a medal. Give that dog a home, not a cage. Heroes come on four legs too." But not all the attention was good. The next morning, a white van with the city seal pulled up in front of the house. Two men in uniform stepped out. Liam watched from the living room window, heart pounding. Aunt Sarah met them at the door. "Are you here for Max?" she asked, crossing her arms. "Just to assess," one of them said. "Standard protocol after a canine-related incident." Max stood behind Liam, tail stiff, sensing the tension. One of the men knelt and pulled out a scanner. Max didn't eat, but his eyes never left him. Liam stepped forward. "He didn't do anything wrong. He was protecting me." "We understand," the man said calmly. "We just need to confirm he's safe to remain in a civilian home." "He saved my life," the man hesitated. "And he may have to do it again if needed. But we need to be sure, for everyone's safety." Liam stepped in front of Max. "He's not going anywhere." Max didn't bark. He didn't growl. He simply stood tall behind the boy, like a shadow that would never leave. And in that moment, the two became more than boy and dog. They became a team the world was about to see fight back. 3 days had passed since the attack. Liam hadn't left Max's yeed, not even to sleep. The couch in the living room had become their shared bed. And every morning, Liam would wake up to the warm breath of Max resting by his feet, calm but alert. But peace was not guaranteed. On the 4th morning, Officer Ramirez returned. But this time, he didn't come alone. He brought a file. Liam opened the door before Ramirez could even knock. "They're not taking him, right?" Ramirez looked tired, older. "Liam, I need to talk to you. And your aunt." Aunt Sarah stood behind Liam, arms crossed, clearly bracing herself for more bad news. They sat at the kitchen table while Max lay at Liam's feet, ears twitching at every movement. Ramirez placed the folder on the table. "There's something I didn't know before. Something about Max's final mission." Liam leaned in. "What do you mean?" "Your dad and Max were involved in a classified sting operation 2 years ago," Ramirez said. "It was supposed to bring down a dangerous weapons ring just outside the city. Max was the one who found the hidden bunker, but something went wrong." Sarah raised her eyebrows. "Wrong how?" Ramirez opened the folder and slid a blurry photo across the table. It showed Max mid-air, clamped onto the arm of a man with a large scar across his face. "That's Raymond Cole," Ramirez said, "the leader of the ring. Max took him down before backup arrived, but Cole didn't die. He survived, escaped during transfer 6 months ago." Liam's eyes widened. "Wait, are you saying?" "Yes," Ramirez nodded slowly. "We believe the bikers who attacked you are tied to him. They weren't just random criminals. They were looking for revenge." A cold chill passed through the kitchen. Max let out a low growl, as if he understood everything. "They targeted you, Liam," Ramirez said gently, "because they knew Max was here." Aunt Sarah put her hand to her mouth. "Oh my God." Liam stared at the dog by his side. "So, he didn't just save me from strangers. He saved me from people who wanted to hurt him. And me." Exactly, Ramirez continued. The department buried the full details of that mission. Too dangerous, too political. But now, Cole's crew is making moves again. We're reopening the case. And Max? Sarah asked. Ramirez sighed. That's where it gets tricky. Some higher-ups think he's a liability. Others think he's a target. They want him moved to a secure facility for his own safety and yours. No, Liam said, standing up. You're not taking him. He's not a weapon. He's not a problem. He's my family. Max rose, moving beside Liam, pressing against his leg protectively. Ramirez looked down at the dog. He's more than anyone ever expected. But if they come again, then we'll fight, Liam said firmly, like we did last time. That night, Liam sat outside on the porch with Max curled beside him. The stars were just beginning to show, and a soft breeze carried the scent of pine and soil. Dad never told me about that mission, he whispered. You saw everything. You kept that inside all this time. Max looked up at him, as if confirming the truth. Liam placed his hand on the dog's head. They don't get to decide who you are. I do. Suddenly, Max's ears shot up. He stood, staring at the tree line across the street. Liam followed his gaze. A shadow moved. It wasn't a neighbor. It wasn't a deer. Someone was watching. Max growled low in his throat, and Liam grabbed his phone, heart racing. The screen lit up, and he quickly dialed Ramirez. The call connected. Officer Ramirez, someone's outside. Stay inside, Liam. Lock the doors. I'm coming. Liam moved slowly, whispering to Max. Let's go, boy. We've got to be ready. He didn't know if it was Cole, or just someone sent to watch, but what he did know, without question, was that Max was already one step ahead, and whatever came next, they'd face it together. The night was darker than usual. Heavy clouds smothered the moonlight, casting Oak Ridge into a deeper shadow than Liam had ever seen. Inside the house, every light was off, at Officer Ramirez's request. They were on lockdown. Max paced silently between the front door and Liam's bedroom, never resting, never blinking. His ears stayed high, catching every creak, every rustle of wind. Liam sat on his bed with the curtains slightly parted, staring out into the backyard. He hadn't slept in nearly 24 hours. Aunt Sarah tried to stay calm, but the tension was unbearable. I don't understand, she whispered from the hallway. This is a child's life we're talking about, and they're sending just one patrol car to monitor us. They don't believe Cole would be dumb enough to strike again so soon, Liam said quietly. But Max does. Downstairs, Max froze. He stared at the front door and growled. Not just a warning this time. It was the growl. The deep, primal sound Liam had only heard once before, the night of the attack. Liam jumped to his feet. Something's wrong. Suddenly, the living room window shattered with a violent crash, glass exploding inward. Max bolted toward the sound. Get down! Aunt Sarah screamed. A flash of movement. A figure in black jumped through the broken window, landing with a heavy thud. Then a second figure appeared, this one carrying something metallic. Max didn't hesitate. He launched. The first man didn't even have time to react before Max tackled him into the wall, sending a table flying. Liam grabbed the landline from the kitchen and dialed Ramirez. 2 men. They're inside. Hold on, Liam. I'm 2 minutes away. The second intruder raised his weapon, aiming directly at Max. Liam screamed, No! But Max was faster. He dodged, spun, and lunged, biting down on the attacker's forearm. The man screamed, dropping the weapon, a long iron bar, before Max yanked him to the floor. Aunt Sarah grabbed Liam and pulled him toward the basement door. Go! Now! But Liam shook his head. Max, go! They stumbled into the basement and slammed the door shut, locking it from the inside. Above them, crashes and shouts echoed through the house. Max was fighting alone. Liam pressed his ear to the door, heart racing so hard it hurt. Then, silence. Terrifying silence. He couldn't hear Max anymore. Aunt Sarah grabbed his arm. Liam, don't. But he already had his hand on the doorknob. Suddenly, boom! The front door burst open. Police! Drop your weapons! Ramirez had arrived. Gunshots cracked, more shouting. The sound of boots pounding on the floor. And then, a long, heart-wrenching whine. Max! Liam flung open the basement door and sprinted upstairs. Ramirez was kneeling by Max's side, who was lying on his side panting heavily. Blood stained his right hind leg. Max! Liam dropped to the floor, eyes wide with panic. He's okay, Ramirez said, voice tight but steady. Bullet grazed him. He held off both of them long enough for us to get inside. Max licked Liam's hand, his tail thumping weakly. One of the intruders was unconscious on the floor. The other was being dragged out in cuffs, screaming about revenge and finishing what Cole started. Paramedics pushed through the doorway seconds later, followed by 2 more squad cars. The small house exploded into blue and red lights, voices, chaos. But all Liam could focus on was Max. Stay with me, okay? He whispered. You're gonna be okay. Ramirez placed a hand on his shoulder. He saved your life again, Liam. Liam nodded, tears brimming in his eyes. Because that's what he does. At the emergency vet clinic, Max was treated immediately. The bullet hadn't shattered bone, just torn through muscle. The vet called him the luckiest, unlucky dog she'd ever seen. But Liam knew it wasn't luck. It was loyalty. It was love. 2 days later, when Max was discharged, a small crowd waited outside the clinic, neighbors, officers, even the mayor. Cameras flashed as Max limped gently to the sidewalk, where Liam stood with a medal in his hand. It wasn't official. It wasn't from the department. It was something Liam had made himself, out of aluminum foil, ribbon, and tape. He tied it gently around Max's neck. For courage, he said softly. For never giving up. And Max, tail wagging, head high, wore it with pride. But the fight wasn't over, because Raymond Cole was still out there, watching, waiting. 3 days had passed since the attack on Liam's house, but the tension hadn't faded. It had thickened. Max, now stitched and bandaged, walked with a slight limp, but never left Liam's side. Even in sleep, the dog's ears twitched at the faintest sound, his instincts refusing to rest. Liam tried to go back to school but couldn't focus. Every loud noise made him flinch. Every unfamiliar face felt like a threat. He wasn't the same boy who had been sketching robots on the sidewalk. And Max wasn't just a retired K9 anymore. They were targets. And everyone knew it. Oak Ridge Police had stationed a cruiser outside the house around the clock. Officer Ramirez came by twice a day to check on them, bringing updates, trying to reassure them. But nothing could have prepared them for what they found next. It was early morning when Aunt Sarah stepped into the backyard to water the plants. The sun hadn't fully risen, and a fog hovered over the grass like a ghost. She was halfway to the flower beds when she stopped cold. A small white envelope sat on the porch steps. No postage, no address, just Liam's name. She rushed back inside, clutching the envelope. "Liam," she said breathlessly, "stay where you are." Max was already growling before she even finished the sentence. Officer Ramirez was there in 5 minutes. He took the envelope with gloved hands, opened it carefully, and read the contents silently. His face darkened. "What does it say?" Liam asked, his voice barely audible. Ramirez hesitated. Then, quietly, he read aloud. "You took everything from me. You crippled my crew. You let that animal rip apart my men, but I'm not done yet. I never forget a face, and I never let a dog live after biting me. See you soon, Liam." The silence that followed was like a vacuum, suffocating and endless. Aunt Sarah gasped, covering her mouth. Liam looked at Max, who stared back with a calm, almost knowing expression. Ramirez folded the letter. "This changes everything." He pulled out his radio. "Dispatch, we need full tactical surveillance on the Oak Ridge residence. Now." This just went from threat level orange to red. "What does that mean?" Liam asked, his voice cracking. "It means," Ramirez said, crouching down, "we're not just waiting anymore. We're preparing for war." That afternoon, the department brought in a mobile command trailer. Drones buzzed overhead. Officers patrolled the block on foot. Oak Ridge had turned into a fortress, but one under siege. In the middle of it all, Max stayed close to Liam, his body tense, his eyes scanning. He knew the scent of danger. He could feel it approaching. Liam sat on the living room floor, tracing the edge of the letter with his finger, even though Ramirez had taken it. He'd memorized every word. The threat wasn't just toward Max, it was personal. "I don't understand," he whispered to Max. "Why me?" Max rested his head in Liam's lap. And somehow, in that quiet moment, Liam realized something. Raymond Cole didn't want revenge. He wanted fear. He wanted Liam to fall apart, to feel powerless. But Max wasn't afraid. And Liam couldn't afford to be. That evening, Ramirez brought Liam a box. "This belonged to your father," he said softly. "We never gave it to you after the funeral. It didn't feel like the right time." Inside was a worn leather journal. The name Officer Daniel Brooks was etched into the cover. Liam opened it slowly. The pages were filled with notes, tactical sketches, mission logs, but also handwritten letters to Liam, and page after page about Max. One entry caught Liam's eye. "Max doesn't just follow commands. He reads hearts. He knows when I'm afraid, even before I admit it. And he doesn't just protect me. He gives me courage. One day, I hope he does the same for my son." Liam's throat tightened. He looked at Max, asleep beside him, breathing slow and steady. His father hadn't just left him a dog, he had left him a protector, a partner, a legacy. Suddenly, a knock at the front door shattered the moment. 2 sharp knocks. No voice, no footsteps retreating. Ramirez moved first, drawing his weapon and ordering Liam to stay behind. But Max didn't wait. He was already on his feet, growling, ready. Ramirez opened the door. No one was there, just a package, wrapped in black tape and ticking. The ticking echoed through the silence like a clock counting down to the end of the world. Officer Ramirez froze. Eyes locked on the black-wrapped package sitting on the front porch. The faint beeping from within made the hair on Liam's arm stand straight. Max stood rigid, his ears forward, growling so deeply it rumbled through the floor. "Back up," Ramirez whispered. "Everyone back up. Now." Aunt Sarah pulled Liam by the arm, stumbling backward, as Ramirez ushered them toward the back door. "Out! Out! Go!" But Liam hesitated. "Max!" he shouted. The dog hadn't moved. He was still at the door, staring at the package like he could hear what it was saying. "Max! Come!" The dog didn't blink. His body lowered into that tense crouch, shoulders forward, legs coiled like strings. Ramirez grabbed his radio. "We've got a suspected explosive device, requesting bomb squad and full perimeter lockdown. Oak Ridge Avenue, house 472. Liam could barely breathe. "He's not moving." "He's going to try to stop it. He's trained for this," Ramirez said, but his voice cracked with doubt. "But Liam, He's not active duty anymore. He's injured. I don't care, Liam shouted. He knows what he's doing. Outside, police began clearing the street. People were pushed behind barricades. Neighbors watched from their porches, horrified. The air was electric with panic. 10 minutes passed. The beeping got faster. Inside, Max circled the package slowly, sniffing, pausing, then backing up. He looked at Liam once, just once, and in that glance, everything was clear. He was doing this for him. Liam couldn't stop shaking. His mind raced back to his father's journal. Max doesn't just follow commands. He leads when no one else can. The front yard flooded with red and blue lights. The bomb squad rolled in. Suits, robots, gear. Ramirez relayed everything, but they were too late. It's on a short timer, one of them said. Whoever built this knew what they were doing. Can you defuse it? Ramirez asked. Maybe, but we need time. More than we've got. And then, Max barked. A single sharp bark, followed by silence. The officer closest to the house looked through the open door and went pale. He's dragging it. What? Ramirez stepped forward. Max had gripped the outer tape in his mouth and was pulling the package slowly across the porch, toward the front lawn, toward the open space. No, stop him, Liam screamed. It's too risky. But Max didn't stop. He pulled it off the porch, onto the grass, away from the house. And then, just as he dropped it near the fence, he turned and bolted. 10 seconds later, the bomb detonated. The explosion lit up the sky. The ground shook. Windows shattered. A deafening roar filled the air. Fire swallowed the front yard in an instant. Liam screamed, Max! The shockwave knocked him to the ground. Ramirez threw himself over Liam as debris rained down around them. And then, for a moment, there was only silence. Nothing but smoke and ringing ears. Liam pushed himself up, coughing. Max! Max! The yard was scorched. The package was gone, obliterated. The fence was twisted metal. The porch had collapsed. And then, through the thick smoke, a shadow limped forward, covered in ash, ears down, burned but alive. Max. Liam ran to him, tears streaking his face. You're okay. Oh my God, Max, you're okay. The dog collapsed into Liam's arms, exhausted but breathing. His chest heaved. His eyes stayed locked on Liam's as if to say, I told you I'd never leave you. Paramedics rushed in with oxygen, cooling packs, and stretchers. Max was treated like royalty, like the hero he was. But even as the medics worked, another officer approached Ramirez. We found something else, he said, near the fence. It was another envelope. This time, the message was short. That was just the beginning. I want the dog, and I want the boy to watch. Ramirez's tongue tightened. He's not finished. He's playing with us. Liam heard every word. He looked at Max, bandaged, barely standing, and something changed in his eyes. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about fighting back. I'm not hiding anymore, Liam said firmly. You tell him if he wants us. We'll be ready. Because this time, Max wouldn't be alone. They were a team. And the final battle was coming. They came at dawn. 3 SUVs, blacked out windows. No plates, no sirens. Officer Ramirez had warned them. It would be fast, silent, brutal. Raymond Cole was here to finish what he started. But this time, Liam wasn't just the scared boy behind a door. He was waiting. Inside the barn at the edge of his aunt's property, set up as a decoy, Liam crouched behind hay bales, gripping the tracker Ramirez had given him. Max lay beside him, wounded but focused, his breathing calm. The burns had healed just enough for him to move again. His body ached, but his purpose was unshaken. Outside, the officers stayed hidden. No lights, no movement. Cole stepped out first, scarred, cold, holding a silenced pistol. He walked straight toward the barn, alone. But Liam knew better. Max rose to his feet, slow but steady. Then it happened. Doors slammed open, footsteps stormed in. One man, two, three. Max launched. Even injured, he moved like lightning, biting, slamming, protecting. Liam ducked, rolled, hit the panic button. Ramirez and his team burst through the opposite side in seconds. Gunfire, shouts, smoke. Max pinned one attacker as Liam ran for cover. Cole spotted him and raised his gun. But Max was already between them. The bullet fired. Max hit the ground. Liam screamed. Ramirez tackled Cole from behind, disarmed him, cuffed him to the dirt. Officers cleared the barn. The threat was over. But Max wasn't moving. Liam crawled across the floor, blood soaking into his jeans. He pressed his hands against Max's chest. "Please, no, please don't go." Max blinked, weak, barely breathing. "You did it," Liam whispered. "We won." Max licked his hand one last time, and then closed his eyes. The vet said later that Max died of internal bleeding, quietly, peacefully, a warrior's end. They buried him under the oak tree behind the house, where he used to lay in the afternoons. Liam placed the same foil medal around the cross they made. It read, "Hero, partner, family." And for the rest of his life, whenever Liam heard the low growl of a German Shepherd or felt fear crawl down his spine, he'd remember one thing: he was never alone, because Max never left. Not really. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it with someone who believes in loyalty, courage, and the power of a dog's love.